All right. We have a fantastic guest on today. We're talking football, a little D3 football here with Coach Rhuley of Rowan. Excited to talk to him about the season, and we've had him on before, and we're excited to have him on again and talk some football. Coach, how's everything going?
It's going good, man. Right in the middle of recruiting season right now. Getting ready for our on-campus visits here coming up, and starting next week when school gets back in session. But we're really beating the bushes. After the season ended, and all throughout the state of New Jersey and the portal, and really really excited for the energy and all that. But obviously now it's about closing the deal and getting guys to commit to the future here.
Right, and we still have the regular. So explain how the Division III, like how signing period works from a Division III standpoint, how that all goes about for them from the time that they decide. Because is there any hard signing period for Division? I don't think there is, right?
Yeah, not specifically for D3. I mean, there are some schools out there, especially the higher academic ones, that follow what they call the early decision deadlines, and that's obviously a case-to-case basis. We're not restricted by that really at all, but we will try, to really finalize our class probably by the last week of February. Is kind of where we want to be. I think with us, the unique situation is there is a roster limit, within our league, and even a more restrictive one than the league's limit at Rowan. And so we can only have 110 players on our roster. And so when I go through the recruiting period, some of those conversations are, hey, we know we're only going to take 4 linebackers in this class, for example. When 3 have committed already and there's only 1 spot left, there's not a hard stop, but the next guy to jump in the boat is going to be the guy that gets the spot, right? And so when you're talking about recruiting in that way, it gets a little interesting in terms of deadlines. I try to be as transparent as possible with guys in that process. Like, hey, listen, you are the guy for us, and we'd love to have you. But at the end of the day, like, we only have X, Y, or Z amounts of spots left, and it's really about who's confident that this is the right place for them sooner at the end of the day.
Right.
No doubt. And does some of the other timelines, so like signing day timelines, affect your timelines and some of your final kids that you're looking to bring in? Like maybe, I don't know, kids that maybe you're recruiting, they have some hopes that they might be going to a high level, and you're waiting for a couple of those kids. Either it doesn't work out for them, or what is that? How do those timelines affect you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when we're sitting with guys that, and that's going to be a lot of our class, when we're sitting there and we're talking about the type of guy we want to bring in to get this program back to where I know it can be. I want guys that have the partial from Wagner or the money from one of the PSAC schools, and those schools, especially the D1s, they obviously want to land their class by signing day, which is the first Wednesday in February. And even a lot of the PSACs or the Division IIs in the Northeast, right, they're trying to squeeze people to commit by that signing day. And so we're certainly aware of that. When we have guys that are kind of in that boat, we make sure that their financial aid and their visit happens before signing day. Because, I've had too many experiences over my 11 years coaching college football where you think you're going to get a guy up for a visit, all of a sudden something higher level pops, and he either wants to participate in or feels the squeeze about signing day.
Right.
And he's like, hey, coach, I really appreciate the offer, but, I'm making my decision. And a lot of times that's, by this date that, exists in the first week of February. So certainly we're well aware if we have guys that have higher level stuff going on, that we got to make sure that we're conscious about that in the process.
Right. And that visit, getting them on campus is so pivotal. And if you can get that before that signing day time, I think it just adds a whole different thing in which that, now that kid he's been on campus, right? And he has everything's kind of figured out so that you can kind of, what I mean? Then that signing day, it's just, it's just kind of a hard stop for them. But I just think getting them on campus is so pivotal.
Yeah. The other thing that's a little interesting about that, and I don't like going down this road a ton, but a lot of people don't know this necessarily, is that, like, if a guy, I know that it's the D1 landscape's changing in terms of the NLI, the National Letter of Intent stuff, but we're not we're not beholden to that, right? So like at Susquehanna, for example, when I was there, like we had multiple guys that signed NLIs, signed on signing day, and then ended up coming to Susquehanna on a visit and ultimately committing post signing day. And they're not beholden to that. There's no penalty because the Division III level doesn't adhere to any kind of NLI. So it's not, there is no penalty to come to our place. So some of it's a little tricky. Obviously, I don't really like putting guys in that situation, but ultimately, if they're getting squeezed and there is money attached and they still do want to see our place, and a lot of times, ultimately, what ended up happening is like they would get our package in the mail.
Yeah.
It would actually be more affordable than, school X. And it's like, well, I didn't know what the money was, when I had to sign. I didn't want to potentially miss out on that opportunity if it was the best opportunity for me, but I was beholden to this date, right? And now turns out that you guys are a better option financially, and this is where I want to be. So, that's kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah, it's really interesting how that the landscape has changed all around you, but kind of Division III rules and what you guys have to deal with is just kind of plays off of what is changing around you versus actually affecting D3, because D3 hasn't a lot of things with Division III haven't changed that much, but you're kind of playing off of what's going on in their world between transfer portal and different things from that standpoint. Are you are transfers something that's in the mix for you guys?
Yeah, big time. So we're about to be finalized. I was talking with my trainers actually over the weekend. I think the final number is going to be either 13 or 14 mid-year transfers.
It's awesome.
13, 14 in, 0 out. So, we had one guy who did enter the portal for us at one point in time. He did get a couple higher level things, and then on Friday told us that he's coming back. So we had one guy who kind of snitched, and we have a little bit of, I sat down with those guys, and I have my policies regarding how we handle the portal here in terms of, hey, like, if you have an opportunity to go up and get a full ride and pay, like, best of luck to you. I love it. But at the end of the day, here's the window that I'm going to let you do it. If at the end of that window, if there's nothing there, you got to make a decision. If you choose to stay in the portal, best of luck to you, but you don't have a home here. At that point in time, if you choose to come back, no hard feelings. And at the end of the day, I hope that letting you do that allows you to see that this is the best option for you moving forward, and you feel even more kind of invested and committed to the program and the process here, when you come back. But yeah, we landed 13, maybe 14 guys. We're seeing kind of here late some guys that we're really, really excited about. All New Jersey guys, a few higher level guys, some JUCO guys, and a couple other kind of D3 bounce back guys from some pretty, legitimate D3 programs in the region. So, really, really happy about that.
That's awesome, Coach. That's amazing, especially with the way college, like the thing that pops out to me is 0 leaving, right? 0 leaving. Look, a guy tests the waters, that's okay. And like you said, I think that policy is phenomenal in terms of, look, if you can go, you're extremely supportive. You know what I mean? And that's awesome. But also, I think, and I do agree with what you're saying by allowing those guys to kind of do that. But here's our policy. Look, you see how much we genuinely care about you. And maybe this really is the right spot for you because, we talk about it all the time. The grass isn't always greener. And those guys, just because you think you're going up, it might not be a better situation for you. You know what I mean? Just because it's a higher level and it's what you've always aspired to do, like this might be the right fit for you. And I think by you allowing it and having that policy that way, that's absolutely phenomenal. But the 0 leaving is really what jumps out to me. That's awesome.
Yeah, and we talked, so for me though, right, like some of the high school kids I'm talking to right now that we are having up on visits, there's one of the kids specifically, there's been a few conversations, but one specifically right now that I have no idea how he's not a FBS player, let alone, offer guy right now. And I told him straight up, like, listen, this is the landscape we're in. Unfortunately, I think that 5 years ago, you probably aren't. We're probably not even having a conversation with you right now.
Right.
The current landscape and how certain programs and levels are choosing to recruit, you really don't have full rides on the table. And then, but even on this end, being like, listen, you come here, I think you're a higher level player. You come here, you're here for a couple years, and you have the opportunity to go do something and do it. Like, go for it. What that means, though, is that you helped us win conference championships. You probably were an All-American. You helped us go deep into the national playoffs. And so, these are our goals as a team. And if those goals ultimately end up with you getting opportunities beyond here, I'm excited for you. You helped the program along the way to get back to where we want it. And ultimately, at that point in time, you might sit there and go, listen, now it's not really that important for me to chase level. I love it here. I love the culture. I love the program. I love my friends and the people I'm around, and I want to see it through. That very well may happen. But if you still do have that desire and you've done a ton for the program and the market dictates that you have the ability to go up and on, then best of luck to you. So
I wonder too if because D3 really there is no obviously transferring down, right? So it puts you in a situation where the only kids that really possibly should leave are kids that were literally first team, all American kids who and obviously if you have all American kids, you probably won a lot of games, and all American kids that got legitimate bona fide big offers. It's not like the levels that are higher where they can move laterally. I mean, you get lateral movement in Division III, but really most of it would be upward mobility, right? So, and I think that gives you a situation where you can really, and correct me if I'm wrong, where you can really say to them, hey, listen, unless you're in this situation, you really have to think hard about it because there's nowhere else for you to go. Like there aren't like, you know what I mean? There aren't a lot of other places. So if you're at a good program and you guys are having success, unless you're getting a big offer, which probably would include an actual NIL deal, right? Because otherwise, if you're getting an offer at a higher level, like if you get a Division I offer, let's say at Division III, and there's not an NIL deal included, you're probably coming in as a backup, and you're coming in as depth, right? I mean, that's my guess. And those guys are glad to bring in depth, but you're coming in as depth, Am I kind of correct on that?
Yeah, what really will be interesting, and I think we'll see it next year for the first time moving forward, is the knockdown to the 105 at the highest level. I think that'll have a nice, interesting trickle effect because you can't sell kids anymore on come here and earn
you got a shot.
And if you earn it, then you got it, because every year, around this time, inevitably, I see guys who were those 0 stars posting like, hey, I had no offers and now I'm in the NFL. I had 0 offers and now I'm a starter at Oklahoma.
Yeah.
That's and everybody else attaches themselves to that is like, I'm going to bet on myself. But, the highest level schools now, they're going to have to make decisions with the 105. They're going to have to make some decisions on, is it guys who have connections to the programs, whether it's alumni's kids or whatever that is, that are going to fill up those last, 15 or so spots that aren't scholarships. And you're absolutely right. That Susquehanna, in the Elite Eight, they played against, Bethel out in Minnesota, and they had a safety who was an All-American and got a lot of recognition. The day after they lost, he hit the portal. He had like 10 P4 offers, and he ended up committing to Wisconsin within the week.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, there are those guys, but you're absolutely right. Like if you are moving up right now, what is attached that, I know from some people, like he did definitely have some NIL stuff kind of floating around with him. And listen, I told guys, like, if somebody's going to give you that opportunity legitimately, and now it's really not going to be attached to just selling a guy a pipe dream on a walk-on. They're not going to be able to really do that. So moving forward, if you do have a guy that has an opportunity to be a CAA guy or a P4 guy or a group of 5 guy even, then he's done some legitimate stuff for your program, for them to make that, financial commitment to him. So obviously it would suck to lose him, but at the end of the day, opening those doors for guys and allowing them to live that out probably only really strengthens your recruiting in terms of, hey, the next guy who feels like he's slighted, you can point to examples of guys that have come through your program. And at the end of the day, you don't want to be like a feeder system and feel like you're a minor league. But at the end of it, ultimately, the current landscape and climate, I mean, even the schools in the CAA feel that way about how they're getting picked off by Power 5 schools. So it's just the climate we're in right now. And I think you either got to embrace it or you're really going to miss out on the opportunity on potentially getting a steal for a year or two if you were super hard and fast about having a negative view on guys hitting the portal. So
no, I like how you're building the roster, the combination of what you're working with high school guys and transfer guys and guys. I also think that you're 100% right on once those rosters go to 105. I mean, there are already guys are already told guys that they're not coming back, and it's going to 105 just trickle down the talent opportunities for you. Now I guess that eventually kind of flattens out after a few years, but the first few years it gives you an opportunity to be able to also get some more talent that comes available, which is really cool. And and you're also in that. I say you're in the sweet spot, I call it the growth spot of New Jersey football, which is South Jersey, which is really as kind of New Jersey, and obviously it started probably in COVID, but as the landscape of people moving and all that kind of stuff, a little bit of migration from New York City and northern New Jersey towards South Jersey, and then Philly people obviously moving out to the suburbs, right? That becoming more of a thing. And then just honestly, real estate is going to be cheaper down there, right? So you get more and more players. Derek talked about this a lot, like the growth of South Jersey football and the athletes that are coming out of there is just phenomenal.
Coach, right across the street. Yeah. You got a Group 1 powerhouse right across the street. You could see practice from practice. And we really talked about it, especially being two North Jersey guys that kind of moved to this Central Jersey area. And now that we've been here for a little bit, it's like people have just continued to go down there. And then with that Philly suburb type of area, that bridge, right across to Jersey, you are really in the sweet spot. Yeah. And to just the whole thing, Rowan, was the transfer portal before there was a transfer portal place. Yeah. They created this monster, and your mindset of just how you're attacking all of this strategically. This is really your full time, the first full recruiting. Because you got there so late, Coach. You were scrambling the last time we talked to you, and just to see what you've gotten done in a small period of time, and now when you can actually take a step, lay it all out. I know you just got back from the convention, so I'm sure that was another whole. But it's just you really are in that sweet spot. Yeah,
and you're absolutely right. There's a lot of talent around here. The thing that I actually am really excited about, and I'm hoping to really make a splash with when it's all said and done in this cycle, is I'm looking to own North Jersey.
Hell yeah!
Like we were up there, and you look at our roster, and I, when I interviewed, I did a heat map of the state of New Jersey and did a 5-year recruiting study of where really everybody in the league was getting their recruits from and everything to kind of figure out,
awesome.
Who you're messing with in certain counties and who really has kind of a foothold, on things. And when you looked at our heat map, man, when you got to Princeton North, that thing was the Arctic. It was cold as ice,
Coach, it's been years, Coach. Years since Rowan has had a splash.
When I look at the rosters that I played with, I played regularly with guys from Morris County and Bergen County and all the, and Essex County and all up there. And that's what it takes at the end of the day. There's a ton of talent in South Jersey. There's no doubt about that. And we're going to lean into that. but we're definitely deep down the line here with a lot of really good players from some of the publics and privates in some of the northern counties that we haven't really landed in the last few years, but I'm feeling really good about where we are with those guys kind of heading into this cycle. So looking to really continue to kind of expand our footprint within the state, to make us a more complete team at the end of the day.
Are you seeing with North Jersey? Are you seeing opportunities with both public and private kids, school kids, being able to be interested in coming down there? Is it more private school? Is it more public school? Or kind of a mix?
I would probably say it's a little more. I would say it's probably a little more public. But we have like the big name Catholic leagues. We probably have 4, 5, 6 guys right now on our confirmed recruiting list from like the household name Catholic school schools that right now, as of now, we have coming to campus to visit over the next 3 weeks. So yeah, it's a mixed bag. I would say it's more state school. Obviously at the end of the day, those guys that go to some of those big time private programs, they have opportunities from a recognition perspective, and sometimes actually I would say probably almost get, I guess, over recruited is what you would say, like right. In terms of, they have so much visibility that maybe a FCS or a D2 who's looking to kind of get their foot in the door in one of those programs, they take a guy that maybe they shouldn't, who's still a good football player, but at the end of the day, like if he was at a Cliffside Park or he was at a Westwood, like they wouldn't take him, but since he has that logo attached to his name, it might be a fit for them in that year. And that's however you want to recruit it, that's your prerogative. But certainly I would say, and again, like we're a state school with 20,000 kids, we're the largest in the country that plays Division III football, and some of the private school guys sometimes are kind of still looking to stay in that private school lane as they head off to college. So yeah, there is a little bit of comfortability in some of the small school vibe with some of those guys, but obviously not all of them, because we certainly have a fair share that are going to visit over the next month or so.
Yeah, I figure having come from North Jersey that there's probably a good amount of kids, especially at the public school, that are because of the way college, the highest levels recruiting now, like basically they're not going to stop in. Like if they don't know you have a guy, they're not going to stop in there. So that part is different, and that I think that kind of creates some really cool opportunities from a recruiting standpoint. And it's really interesting. I was looking, it was like a few weeks ago, I was looking at an article when I came out, and the number of kids that signed FCS and FBS, and it was a huge article. This was 1992. And it was a gigantic number between FCS and FBS in Bergen. It was Bergen, Passaic, Hudson. It was a gigantic number. And you look at that same thing now, it's much smaller. I would say almost like at least a third, maybe a fourth of what it was. And I think part of it is because so many kids go to parochial, the concentration of the FBS and FCS is at those schools.
Yeah.
And because recruiting, people aren't stopping down unless, they're not doing it anymore. Like, hey, do you know of a kid in your area? That's like less of a thing, that's like very 2000-ish thing. Right. So a lot of schools, those schools sit dormant, and you come in there, it's like, boom, it's an opportunity. And it's really an unbelievable opportunity for a lot of those programs to get kids to go to an excellent Division III program that I think is going to be back on the rise pretty quickly. Especially with what you're doing. And I think the other part is Rowan is a way for them, meaning it's kids who want to go away and don't want to go to where Derek's alma mater is and then stay in that area, they have an opportunity to go away. And I think that's the dynamic. So kids who want to stay local, they have obviously the local D3s, but the kids who are looking for an away experience, Rowan fits that category really well.
Yeah, you hit that on the head. It's like I was just going to say that. You're talking about an hour and a half, 2 hours. Like in a lot of ways, when I look at like our recruiting, and it's a little different here because we are a state school. Kind of how I've always looked at recruiting everywhere I've been is like put a pin in the map and draw like a 3-hour donut right around where you are, and like that's kind of like your hot your hot zone, and then the further you get away from that, obviously in certain directions, especially when you start entering other people's hot zones that are legitimate programs, the juice is not really worth the squeeze a lot of times in some of those places. So you're absolutely right. I mean, I went up last week to see some of our top guys up in North Jersey. You're talking about an hour and 40 minutes, an hour and 30 minutes. Like,
yes, perfect.
Just far enough away. But if you want to go home for Sunday dinner when your mom's making that fresh mutz and, whatever, go ahead and head back up to Bergen County,
You can grab a Taylor ham on the way.
I don't know what that is.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But that's really at the end of the day, like that's a great, you're 100% right. Like that's a phenomenal distance for a lot of people. And that also is another piece of what makes it attractive for sure.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. What, I'm just looking at the time. All right, we're good. As far as what you see like on the horizon football wise is like how you continue to evolve the program, outside of recruiting, like your off season, what does that look like? What are your kids going to be doing next that you're continuing to like kind of step up?
Yeah, so we'll be, our guys get back to campus on Tuesday. We'll have a team meeting. We'll start lifting right away. Pretty exciting coming up I'm actually on the search committee that's going to hire the next head of strength and conditioning here at Rowan. And that job is kind of tied to a new varsity weight room that's being built starting in May. So we have a new varsity athletics weight room that's being built starting in May. Once kind of the students leave campus, the blueprints and everything are kind of starting to be put together right now, which is obviously pretty exciting. But we'll kind of get that rolling. And then really at the end of the day, it's the focus right now when our guys get back to campus is really being all hands on deck for this recruiting cycle, and I'll talk to the guys about like, you guys are our best recruiters, right? Like the guys in the program, like at the end of the day, when we have our visits, it's a pretty comprehensive visit. We do a lot of different things where our current student athletes are involved in that day to allow the recruits to gain, that insider's perspective. We'll leave them, like the staff will leave. We'll do a Q&A. We call it a player panel. That's just 5 or 6 of our players that are kind of different years, different demographics, different areas, and we'll leave the room. And the recruits, their parents, they'll sit in there and they'll fire away for like a half an hour. And I feel comfortable, allowing our guys to do that because, I think on and off the field, I'm confident, in the product that we're putting together. And, really from there, we will do as a staff a good amount of professional development, in the months of March and April. We'll be off campus. A lot of the guys that I know that are, coordinators at the P4 level, some NFL type stuff, like we'll be in those buildings. I've always kind of been in the mindset of kind of being a lifelong learner. Like some of the guys I learned from when I was really young, they were 40 years in the business, and every offseason they were still trying to figure out how to get better. And that kind of mindset really, got ingrained in me and burned into my, coaching DNA, so we'll do that, and then obviously hit spring ball in end of March, April, and then kind of send them home for the summer and have another opportunity in early May to see, who's not satisfied with their situation and see if we can add a couple more guys that fit needs for us that we think are great fits for our program, both, culturally and obviously, athletically. So
would you leave some spots open in the spring after that transfer portal in case kids come out of there, or is that a situation where you just kind of, if the guy comes available, you add them at that point?
Yeah, so that's really based off of our current roster. What I say is, we had 28 or 29 guys walk on senior day this past year, right? So hypothetically speaking, if everybody chose to come back, you're probably looking at our returning roster before these transfers came in right around 80. So we have a self-imposed limit of 110. So that's 30, right, guys between transfer and high school, right? I told my roster at our last meeting that I'm looking to bring in 50 guys in this class between transfers and, high school kids. So, I was an English major in college, but that means that's 130, right? And so that means there's 20 guys that if everybody chooses to come back, there's 20 guys on the current roster, that are, hitting the bricks. And
right.
For me, it's don't be one of those 20 guys. And what can you do to not be one of those 20 guys, right? You show up, you show improvement. You're a positive culture driver, right? You're somebody who took the coaching points and the things we talked about in the exit meeting at the end of the fall in terms of things you need to address, both, from a personality or dedication perspective, and from a physical, positional perspective of playing your position. And at the end of the day, there's going to be some guys that answer that call. There's going to be others who kind of go through the motions, and those are going to be the guys that don't move forward with us. At the end of spring, we'll talk to some guys about you have a secure camp spot, you're a bubble guy, or you're gone. And there will obviously be guys that we'll talk about scenario wise that they're bubble guys that may not be bubble guys unless we find somebody in the portal that ultimately ends up being a better fit for them. My administration's done a pretty good job. Obviously last year I was on a short timetable, but really talking to them about, hey, listen, like I know my roster limit's 110, but like last camp, I think we brought in like 116 or 117. And I said, like, by the end of camp, by the time we get to game week and I have to submit that roster to the NJAC, like that's when I'll be at 110, right? So I can be at 117. I can be at 117, 118, 120, right, going into camp. And then between quitters, between season-ending injuries, whatever those things are, I can move those guys off the active roster. And if I have to cut guys by the time we get to game week, then we got to make a decision as a staff who those guys are.
Very, very, very interesting. Did Casey?
It's something we always dealt with them up there.
Did Casey Keeler call you up from Temple and have you come up to give you some of his trade secrets from when he was at Rowan?
Not yet. Casey, Coach and I have had, some decent discussion. I mean, we had some talks, obviously, when I got the job last summer.
Right.
Kind of some congratulatory stuff, and then some some definitely some advice about kind of when he was here, kind of what his thought process was and how he operated. And, and then obviously when he was about to get the Temple job, we kind of connected again because we had talked about, in the off season, me and my staff getting down there and seeing how they were operating at Sam Houston. And I kind of just sent him a text. I was like, hey, listen, I know I'm sure you're getting bombarded right now, but selfishly, if it is true that you're coming back, selfishly, it's a much closer,
much easier trip.
much closer trip to take with the staff to come do some professional development. And so obviously, he just put his staff together. He landed some phenomenal guys, in my opinion, and I have no doubt he's going to kick it off there. But I'm trying to give them a little bit of time to get their feet under them before, I go knocking on the door asking for the trade secrets or whatever. Yeah. So,
but I figure as an ex Rowan coach too, if he gets wins of guys looking to move places or guys that fall through the cracks for him, like, hey, this is a guy. These are guys that we're not gonna recruit, but or not like go forward with.
Sure.
But they're on the border, you know what I mean? These guys are on the borderline, so.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, I'm sure we'll have those conversations at some point. I think there was a black book like buried under the office here somewhere on like something, that I gotta break some codes and figure out how to go get that thing.
There's some type of, he probably left you something in like the bottom of a wall, right? You got to knock through it. It's like a time capsule.
No, that's great.
Like, hey, here you go.
Yeah, Nicolas Cage, National Treasure type stuff.
That's it, buddy. That's it. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Now, as far as like staff wise, and I know you got to get wrong, so I'll make this the final question. Staff wise, so how do you kind of build the staff and continue to build the staff? Do you have what types of, like, how do you fill holes? How do you like, what's kind of your philosophy there?
Yeah, so obviously first season happens, and now we're kind of in that first off season. I just got back from a convention with a decent contingency of the guys that we had coached this past year and that are on staff. I think it's really more about figuring out how to continue to bring in the guys that really fit the criteria that I'm looking for. And for me, that's what we call the 3 C's, which is competence, connection, and chemistry. Right? Can guys coach? Can they be teachers? Can guys connect with players, right, beyond just being a wide receiver or a running back or a linebacker? Are they going to be able to connect with them as a young man from Bergen County and what his aspirations are, and how be dedicated to helping him grow as a young man? And then the chemistry piece, to be honest, is really more of a staff to staff thing. Like, I think that's been some of the secret sauce for me at the other places that we've been, is the staff dynamic and how much we really enjoy being around each other and how we kind of play off of each other. I think that's something that has, really aided in the success. Like, I want to be able to, have a barbecue at my place and really enjoy having my staff over to do that. I think there's a lot of value in that, being able to go out to a, trivia night or a wing night as a staff and grab a couple, drinks and have some food and just, bond that way. And, we have some coaches on staff who have young children and other guys that are, young dudes that are cutting their teeth, that are, hungry in the profession. And for me, continuing to develop those bonds and really, I think that really bleeds into the roster. And when the team pays attention to the nonverbals, to just how guys interact, I think that's really worth its weight in gold, that when you guys are a cohesive staff and there's a lot of, love shared and all that, it's just going to make your program better. So those are really the 3 things that we're looking for. And we'll see kind of how the staff shakes out moving forward. I don't really anticipate a ton of movement necessarily, but obviously as we continue to get better and be more successful, I have no question that I have some guys on the staff that are who I believe are some pretty talented guys, and when they have opportunities, that's no different than a guy who's potentially looking to hit the portal, right? If you think it's the best fit for you and your family moving forward, and it checks your box on your career advancement, then best of luck to you, and the door will always be open here for you at Rowan, unless you end up at another NJAC school and then beat it.
Then it's, if you end up at Montclair State where Derek went to school, it's like, see ya.
Unfortunately, the door's got to be locked for a little bit. You took all the trade secrets with you, but anything moving forward here, I gotta cut you off. No hard feelings,
Listen, I don't think that movement happens that much. I'll tell you that much. You don't see NJAC guys going to NJAC guys back. I mean, listen, when those guys, like when I was playing and, some of the staff at Montclair State literally up and moved to Kane, like that was something that like had never happened. And look, this is, that's 20 something years ago. Like you don't really see that much movement from those guys, even Division III guys, they don't really want to move lateral. And if they do, they sure as hell just don't move from South Jersey to North Jersey. So I don't think you have to worry about that. But listen, I've had interactions with some of your guys, right? Like I've had guys that have come into our building and whatnot. And believe me, like they're doing it the right way. They recruit the right way. Even our head coach said, went out of his way to say something about like, hey, this guy knows how to recruit. And you know what I mean? So it's just kind of a, for you to know that your guys are on the road doing the right thing and saying the right things within those small rooms and recruiting those guys that way, it's a kudos to you and your staff.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And, I keep telling people, man, like this is the most important, recruiting cycle of my career, in my opinion, because this is really going to dictate and set the tone for, what it looks like moving forward and the type of guy, the caliber of player that we're going to bring into the program. And I keep sitting down with kids and I go, hey, are you familiar with cryptocurrency? You like Bitcoin? And I'm like, right now, like Rowan football is Bitcoin, man. It's only up from here. So, you're going to look back on this conversation 2 years from now and go, damn, remember when Bitcoin was at 97,000? Man, I should have invested then, right? And that's where I am with the program right now is, hopefully we're in a place that guys that decide to move and go somewhere else, if it's 18 months from now and they're trying to swing back and circle the block, it's like, man, sorry, like, we're not open to that anymore, but at the end of the day, I'm really just looking for guys that want to be a part of something special in this new era. And, I know what Rowan football is, obviously, and what it was and what it can continue to be moving forward. And just really excited for the guys who seem to be, especially the dozen guys or so that bought into that, from the mid-year and the portal that were at other places. And, now kind of being able to, project that into, hey, what's this 2025 class going to look like? And based on, some of the guys that we have committed to visits right now, if we can land them, we're going to feel really good about, rolling into, 2025 season. So,
Coach, you know what makes me sad? I had a bunch of Bitcoin at 30,000 and sold it when it was at, and I had a good amount of it, and sold it when it was around 50,000. If I just hung on to all of that, and now it's at 97,000. Oh my goodness.
My one buddy who's like he's been telling me since I can't tell you when, and he reminds me like every day when he screenshots the price once a week or whatever. I go, his whole thing is when it's time to sell your Bitcoin, you won't have to, is what he always says. Like when it's time to sell your Bitcoin, you won't have to. And it's always wrong with me. Listen, getting this coaching thing and making $10,000 in housing and $5,000 in housing, it wasn't like I had a ton of of money to throw around into the crypto market.
That's right.
Which is kind of nice for me because now I can be like, hey, listen, it wasn't like I was spending my money on other things. I just didn't really have it to throw around.
The necessities, dude. Like I need my money to like survive.
Yeah. So, but no, yeah, I really, it's an exciting time down here in Glassboro, and we're just kicking off the official visit weekends here coming up in the next couple of weeks, and really excited to continue to show families kind of what the product is and what the vision for the program is for our players on and off the field. So,
it's awesome.
Coach, it's been phenomenal to have you on. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time. It's awesome seeing what you're doing, and hopefully, I guess we'll have you back. Hopefully, maybe in the summer or something, and we'll talk some more before you're getting ready for the season. And it's great seeing the progress, and and how you're really taking it to the next level. And it's only up from here. I'm flabbergasted at like what Derek said. You have 13 guys coming in, transferred, none going out. That's really home run. So, best of luck to you, Coach. And then, anytime you want to come back on, talk about something, we're glad to have you on.
I appreciate you guys and the support. And thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to talking to you next time.
All right. Have a great day, Coach.
All right, Coach. Take care. Talk soon.
Yeah. See you.
That was great, dude. Great. It's really interesting seeing the progression, you know what I mean? Like,
I think that's really cool, right? Like, and that's why, I've kept in touch and whatnot. And because you see, like, when he got in, right? And also, like, this is his first head coaching gig. You know what I'm saying? Right. So, like, to track, even like, for him personally, on top of the program itself, because we know what it was when we were, in that world. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was it. National championship, like all that kind of stuff. And now literally with the coach from that down the street, you know what I'm saying? Like to just see the overall, just every aspect of it, right? From the recruiting to the actual gameplay to the, what's going on outside of things that are out of their control in terms of, and look, he talked about NLI, not NIL, right? Not to be confused for these people, right? Like national letter of intent, which used to be like you sign that contract, like you're going to that school and that's it and whatever. But it's definitely changed recently. And then look, I thought you asked some good questions too, so that people get familiarity with like recruiting D3 is different than recruiting when it comes to, you know, those higher levels. Cause everybody just thinks it's all the same. And it's like, no, dude, like there's no hard line of where you have to say, or
Right.
I mean, look, even my experience, right? Like I didn't get to Montclair until August. You know what I'm saying? So like those things are different when it comes to D3.
D3,
like
yeah.
you can literally get up there. And then the specific thing for him in the NJAC, that conference, there's only 110 spots that you're allowed to have on your roster. That's different. You know what I mean? Like Mount Union can bring in 210 and it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? So those things really kind of put you know, I actually think
the first year he was 6-4, I guess the first year, right? This first year. So
yeah, and look, and I went down
some close games too.
Yeah, I mean, look, so and I went down and I watched the game. I saw the atmosphere that he's created. Like, I mean, look, there's a lot of positivity down there. I mean, he just talked about a new strength and conditioning coach, a new weight room coming in there. So, like, you know, the campus is getting better. The school itself, again, state school. When you're talking money and things like that, like, they do good stuff. So I think he's got a lot.
I love that we talked about what became the Breakfast Bowl.
That's it. He did it. They did it.
I think we deserve a little bit of credit for shaping the idea a little bit, just a little bit.
And listen, that was the game I went to, and like I said, he tagged it too because it was also homecoming, right? So he doubled down on it. They won in overtime. I mean, what a game, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's just a lot of positive around it, and I really don't know if that program itself has had that positive juice in a really long time. You know, he really talked about that one where he wants to recruit North Jersey. I mean, I'll tell you right now, like through my time up there, when I was coaching there, like you never saw Rowan. And that wasn't a thing when I was in school in the 2007, 2008, like Rowan was a factor when it came to recruiting up there, and they kind of disappeared for a while. And then you can track it with wins and losses, like so did their program. So he has the right mindset. And like you said, with the things, how things trickle down, he's going to get some private school kids that are probably better players that are willing to go down there. And like you said, it's a way for them, right? Like, that's the coolest thing. And that's, that's part of it too. Like when I was at Montclair State, there'd be a ton of South Jersey guys. And it's like, you guys stayed home, and they're like, no, this is an hour and a half from us. Like, this is 2 hours. This is far. Like, this is away. Like you said.
If you think about it, like I went to UConn and you went to Sacred Heart. Okay.
Right.
UConn was 2 hours and 15 minutes away. It wasn't really that far. Like,
no, you could go home.
Sacred Heart is less. Sacred Heart's probably an hour and 45.
Sacred Heart was like an hour and 20 minutes if I wanted to.
There you go.
I could go home, do my laundry, and be back by dinner if I wanted.
That's the same as going to, actually it's farther to go to Rowan, right? So,
but it's close enough where like mom and dad can come see a game and not have to worry about like, oh, I need a hotel or I need this, right? Like it just constant.
Or you can get a hotel. Like if you want to make something of it, you can.
You can make a weekend of it if you wanted to, right? Like, and do that, but not have to like get on a plane or do any of that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So
pretty cool.
It is. And look, and he's fiery. He's a defensive coach. He calls games aggressively. He plays aggressively. It's like an exciting stuff. It's like an air raid type of defense that's really exciting to watch. And it benefit. It's what players are now. Those tweeners. I mean, now tweeners, right? Those strong safety linebacker-ish guys where the D3 level warrants those athletes that just don't have those D1 measurables. They get because they get passed over for some of those stuff. He's going to get them because you want to play in that defense, dude. It is exciting. It is fun. And he's a great, you can tell he's got juice. He brings that juice. He's won everywhere he's gone.
Yeah. He's definitely bringing that juice. There's no doubt about it.
Oh man, hell yeah! He walks into that building.
By the way, I realized I put on the wrong. It's just College Football Frenzy at the top. Well, actually, we ended up talking to college football, so it works.
A little bit. It's college football in some way, shape, or form.
Oh yeah. That one is. There's this one. There it is. Prospect Podcast. Funny.
We got a full slate next week, buddy.
Yeah, oh yeah, I realize now. You know what? I'm gonna have to label these because I screenshotted them as the backgrounds, and they all kind of look. They're different, but
But
they
they all
look
look the same.
from my computer. They look.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like they're all.
Yeah.
It's small, and my eyes are getting not good. So
Yeah, mine are bad.
I can't really read. I would have to put glasses on to read what it says. So
Oh, you got those cheaters now, buddy.
Yeah. Yep, I need the cheaters. But all right. Hey, oh, by the way, I saw speaking of the NJAC, I saw DeVito who played with us last night. I saw him
Kane,
at
baby.
Wawa.
And I'm happy
Kane,
for him
yeah.
because he went up there and he loved it.
Yep, loved it.
Coach Garrett's really excited to have him, dude. He's like he's his type of player. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Tough kid, hard worker, program kid, gonna work no matter what. Not gonna have to worry about him off the field. You know what I mean? With a kid and coming off, a nice little season at Mid North. It's a good get for him. He's excited to have him. And the kid is over the moon, right? Because he found a place that wanted him. And I think that's really cool. You know what I'm saying?
He was a good athlete.
Good.
All right, till next
time. Gonna make some waves. So
next time. Yeah, Garrett back on.
Big week next week, man. We're back to back with some really interesting and cool guests.
It's gonna be awesome. All right, let's rock and roll.